My name's Jacqueline Vajunik. I'm from Oklahoma State University, and I'm at the house of Clifford, Copeland, and we're here in Union County, New Mexico, and we're with Clifford, Copeland, Matt, and Cliff, and also in the room is Peggy Clay and Barbara Copeland. So Clifford, can you tell me when and where you were born?
I was born May 1, 1932 in Lubbock, Texas.
Okay. So could you tell me a bit about your family and how your family got to Lubbock?
Well, I was born in the Depression, of course. And my folks were doing whatever they could do to make a living. And Dad farmed and he worked for the WPA and whatnot, and he got a chance to come to Dumas, Texas and try to make a living there. And it didn't work. He went bankrupt, so he went to work in the oil fields, and he was a car salesman, and he finally got himself pulled up out of the muck, and then he had an opportunity to buy this little ranch, so he jumped in with both feet.
So when did he buy this ranch?
We moved here in 1943.
Okay. So, just to stay back a little bit, do you remember, I mean, you were born in the Dirty 30s, so do you remember any of it, or do you remember stories you heard from your parents about the Dirty 30s?
Oh, I remember the Dirty 30s.
Could you tell me a story or two?
Oh, not too good. I remember them, but I was too little to story much, but those big black dusters come rolling in at you. It was pretty scary. And I know Mom, she'd put blankets, back all the chairs up, and put blankets and sheets over them and dampen them to catch the dust. And us kids would play inside this little
tent. How many brothers and sisters did you have?
I had 2 brothers and a sister.
Do you remember how that, did they ever talk about how that time affected the family? Just it sounded like your father had a hard time with jobs and during that time period?
I don't believe I quite understood the question.
Did they ever talk about how the Dust Bowl or the Dirty 30s affected their livelihood?
Oh, not really. I'm sure they did, but
Yeah.
I don't remember exactly.
Okay.
Main thing I remember is those terrible dirt storms.
And were you afraid of them?
Well, not really, but kinda. But at that point in my life, I developed asthma.
Okay. So then your mother had to take care of you. Did she keep you guys inside a lot?
Yeah, during the blows, you had to stay in the house. No way to go outside.
Okay, so then when you got to this ranch in the 40s, what was this ranch like?
Well, it was a heaven to me. I loved the cows and loved the horses and all this neat stuff, and in the 40s it rained a lot. We had several good years in a row, and this country was beautiful. It had grass all over it. And then the 50s came.
So we'll get to the 1950s, but let's stick to the 40s. So when you got to this ranch, how big was it, and how many head of cattle did you guys run?
Well, Dad had about 150 cows, and it was roughly about 4,000 acres.
Okay. So then tell me about what you did as a kid. What were the kind of chores you had to do?
Well, I milked 13 cows twice a day before I went to school. And after I got back, and we didn't have a pickup. I checked all the windmills and stuff horseback, which that has to be done regularly even today with pickup. And build fence. We didn't have much fence back then. The whole ranch was 2 pastures at that point in time.
Okay.
But we built lots of fence.
So you built a fence. Did your whole family help?
Mostly me and Dad. My brothers were too little to be much help.
So when would you say you started ranching when you were a kid? Were you born a rancher, or was it 4, or as soon as you could walk?
Well, as soon as as soon as we had a place for me to ranch, we had a little place at Dumas.
Uh-huh.
And I kept my horse in town. And I'd go out to the place, that's what we called it,
Uh-huh.
horseback. I'd stay out there and ride the cows. We had lots of hogs out there.
You would go from here to Dumas?
No.
Oh, I was going to say that's a long trip.
From Dumas.
I've heard some crazy
Downtown-
stories.
Downtown Dumas.
Okay.
It's about 3 miles or so out
Uh-huh.
to the place from where the house was.
Mm-hmm. Could you tell me what you guys did for fun? It sounded like you worked a lot as a kid.
Well, we did a lot. Back then it was party games and dances
Mm-hmm.
and a lot of stuff like that. We finally got where we played a little basketball but at the school, but we might get 1 or 2 games a year.
Mm-hmm.
Basketball didn't amount to a whole lot.
Mm-hmm. So what school did you go to?
Went to Amistad.
And what was Amistad like then?
Well, not a whole lot different than it is today, except it had a mercantile store and a garage.
Mm-hmm.
And it had the church that's still there today. And we had a post office then.
Mm-hmm. And where would you guys do your big shopping?
Well, usually in a big lot of it was in Clayton, I guess.
Mm-hmm. So what was Clayton like when you were little?
Well, it was a pretty busy little town back then. They had the cream station where we took our cream from the cows, took the eggs,
Uh-huh.
and that was grocery money. And Dad would tend to his business, and during the war, we moved out here during the war, and during that period of time, gasoline was a great commodity.
Mm-hmm.
And everybody didn't have any gas cards or stickers. I know they had A stickers. That was what nearly everybody had, an A sticker.
Mm-hmm.
My dad had a C sticker. I don't know how he got it. But you could have this gasoline, but then you couldn't buy tires enough to go in your car to get to town. But everybody, when they find out somebody's going to town, everybody'd bring their sack with a list in it.
Uh-huh.
And you'd get everybody fixed up for a little while and bring it out. And so I know we had a lot to do with Clayton back in the early days.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where you went to get gas ration stamps, tires, any kind of food. You had to have sugar stamps, coffee stamps, all this stuff, unless you could get lucky enough to find a little bit black market.
Mm-hmm. So what kind of social events did you have when you were growing up? Were there things that brought the community together?
Now, come with that one more time.
What kind of social events did you have when you were growing up? Were there events or things that people did that brought the community together? What got people together?
Card parties and dances and the church.
4-H.
4-H brought the kids together. It just, everybody did everything.
So were you involved in 4-H?
Oh yeah.
Could you tell me about it?
Well, not too much to tell. I did well.
What did you do in 4-H?
Showed cattle.
Mm-hmm. Did you get to travel with that?
Not much. We'd go to the county fair and the state fair.
Mm-hmm.
We weren't great travelers then.
Mm-hmm. Did you win any ribbons?
Yeah. Barbara says I went to Denver. And I did.
So you went to Denver too?
Yeah, the big stock show.
In Kansas City on the train. Tell about that.
Oh, well. She knows more about
Tell me about
than I do.
Kansas City on the train.
Well, they had a project in 4-H that was supposed to feed these steers like commercial steers and not show steers.
Mm-hmm.
and see if we could make steers make money like a feedlot does. And we took them down to the fair, and the top 5 pens that were exhibited, they took those and put them on the railroad and sent them to Kansas City to be sold just like cattle did back then. I mean, the feed yards, a lot of people sent cattle to Kansas City on the rails. And the ranchers, where they sent their cattle up there and everything, they'd get to ride the train with the cattle. Well, we got to ride the train with
That's
our
great.
cattle, 2 of us. And we're supposed to be there overnight. We left one night. We're supposed to travel one day and one night and be there. And I don't know, we got on the slow train. We was 3 or 4 days getting over there.
But you made it.
Everybody's worried about us. And both of us guys is just little guys, you know. I mean, we was, 15, 16 years old. And we made all right. we, over there in Amarillo, we got a chance to go buy some hamburgers. So we used to get hungry all the time. And we went and bought a dozen hamburgers.
Did you pack? You didn't pack enough food for a 3-day trip.
No, we didn't take any food. We didn't talk about it.
Tell about the conductors.
And the conductors were ornery suckers. Well, those cabooses had everything in them. They had beds and had toilet facilities and everything. They didn't want us to use nothing.
Oh no, that sounds crazy. But you made it. So.
We got right in the edge of Kansas City. We had one good conductor. He got us up, and he made coffee, and he gave us a cup of coffee. Only guy on the whole trip is nice to us.
It's probably the best cup of coffee you've ever had in your life.
And anyway, and then to top that off, we thought we was going right into the yards with our cattle.
Yeah.
We were several miles out of town, and they said, "You got to get off here."
So you have to walk your cattle in.
So we didn't know what was that, but we got to go in, and got us a cab back to the livestock exchange building, and we were starved to death. I think we about ate everything that cafe had.
So did you take that same train back, or did you try to find some other way to go home?
We rode home with the sponsor.
That's
See,
good.
the other 3 kids went with the sponsor, and there was 2 of us on the train. Well, I won the same trip the next year. We had such a hard time. The first year they wouldn't let me ride the train. The second year, I knew how to make it work.
And how old were you then?
Oh, I must have been 15, 16.
Okay, so could you tell me a little bit more about high school? What did you guys do for fun in high school around here?
I don't know. We had a whole lot of fun.
And did you go to high school in Amistad? Okay.
Went as long as I could. I had to go to Clayton for my senior year to graduate, but I went all the rest of them here.
So what was it like going from Amistad to Clayton High School?
Boring.
Was it?
It's pretty clannish.
How many students were in your class in Amistad, and how many ended up being in Clayton?
3.
And how many
2.
students? How many students were in Clayton? Your graduating class?
My graduating class, I think, was about 86.
So that's a lot of students. That would have been hard, I think. I would have had a hard time adjusting to that. How far did you go there by bus? How did you get to Clayton High School?
My folks usually took me, and I lived in a boarding house through the week, and then I'd catch her and usually could find a way to ride home on Friday.
Were there a lot of students who lived in boarding houses?
I don't think there was many, a few, but not just bunches of them.
Okay. So then when did you graduate from high school?
1949.
And what did you do after that?
I started work right here.
Okay.
I I've been working right here ever since.
Okay. So when did you meet your wife?
Met my wife in 1950.
Could you tell me that story?
That was quite a story. We was over at the state fair, and she was a rodeo queen from her county.
The first queen contest at the state fair.
Oh, wow.
And the fair, we had a great manager back then, and he fixed up facilities for the kids, dormitories for us, the cafeteria to eat our meals.
Mm-hmm.
And so we've been eating there all week, and I'd asked several different girls who wanted to go to the rodeo and this and that. And through the week, and then that particular one night, Barbara and her friend came and sat down right across the table from me.
Mm-hmm.
So I got acquainted. And then we had another date or two there before she had to go home and I had to go home. And we had a little correspondence. Then it kind of ran out. I don't know what happened. Too far apart.
Mm-hmm.
And then we went to state 4-H camp and got reacquainted. And then it never did slow up after that.
So how did you date? Because you were long distance, or was it a quick courtship?
Well, it was a pretty quick trip.
Uh-huh.
Drive down, we'd go to the dance, then I'd come back.
Mm-hmm.
It was a long trip, it wasn't a quick one.
It ain't quick, I didn't get to stay long enough to even take a nap.
So how long did you do that? How long did you guys date before you got married?
We got married in 52.
Okay, so you mostly would drive there and go dance, and that's what you guys did for dates? So then you guys...
Rainbow Girls had dances. And
Okay.
you got invited.
Okay, so you did a lot of dancing. So you got married and you moved here. So could you tell me about the ranch in the 1950s then?
Well, the ranch in the 1950s turned dry again. Major drought. We had 7 years. We didn't get rain at all.
Mm-hmm. So how many cattle were you running before that drought, and then what did you go down to?
I don't remember exact numbers, but we were probably running, like 150, 175. But when the drought was over, we might have had 65 or 70 cows.
Mm-hmm. So how did you manage to stay in business?
Well, by me staying home and working, and my dad got out, and he was a cattle trader. He bought and sold cattle all over this country. And he knew, while he was out doing that, he knew it was all okay if I was here.
Mm-hmm.
So he could do his thing.
Mm-hmm.
Pig parlor.
Yeah, we had a pig parlor.
You had a pig parlor too.
Yeah.
You want to tell us about that?
Well, we had the first modern day, what they call hog farms now. We call it a pig parlor. We had a 90. We had a building 90 feet long and 24 feet wide or something like that. And that was our feeding floor. We had kept 150 hogs on feed, and then all the sows to keep, just half enough sows to keep that floor busy. We did never get up to where we could raise all of our pigs. We bought them. And so it worked for a while. My dad, he thought it was going to be good, and it probably would have been good, but hogs are bad for disease, and we happened to get disease. We bought some feeders, pigs that had something, and kind of put us out of the pig business.
So when did you start the pig business, and when was the pig business over?
Well, I don't know, we started the pig business probably in about 54, 55.
And when did it end?
Oh, in about 3 or 4 years.
Okay. But by then the drought was sort of winding down,
A
probably.
little bit.
Did you ever need to take up another job, a sort of outside job, to get through drought? No.
No, I did a little day work, but that's all.
So then how many kids do you have?
This is my family right
Okay. So Clifford, you're the next one, right? So you came
Yep.
along next. So tell me when and where you were born.
I was born in Tucumcari, New Mexico in 1955.
Okay. And then when and where were you born?
I was born in Las Vegas, New Mexico in 1983.
Okay. All right. So tell me about your childhood a little bit. What did you work on the same ranch here?
Yes, this has always been home for me. So all of my earliest remembrances are from right here.
Okay.
And we didn't, the housing has changed a little bit. We've lived in several houses as time has progressed, but this is the original house, and so the one Mom and Dad finally moved into ultimately. And so anyway, this is where I grew up, and this is what's always been home.
Okay. So growing up around here, what was the house like? Did you have electricity when you were growing up?
Not until 40s,
Okay.
49, REA came here.
Okay.
And we had some electricity before that because we had a power plant.
Okay. And then did you guys have a telephone when you were growing up?
Yes, we did.
You did.
And not everyone in the community did, though.
Yeah.
It was the old party line system and so forth, and for a long time, this is just kind of a little bit back before my time. And I remember the folks talking about in Narragansett was the switchboard, and there was 2 phones up here, I think, in the whole community, and this house was one of them to start with. But then, as I was a kid growing up, we had just a regular party line system, and yes, we did have phones.
So did people stop here to use the phone then?
Dad could probably answer that
Oh
part.
yeah, they stopped and we had to take messages all over. You know, people would call trying to get a message to somebody. And it was, and we could call out, and I remember one thing in particular, they came and one dad to meet a team and wagon down here on the corner, and they brought this girl all the way from Ione over here on that wagon, and she had appendicitis.
Oh wow.
And they got there, and Dad took the car and took her into Clayton.
But it was snowing.
Oh yeah, it is bad. That's the reason they were in the wagon.
Yeah. So Clifford, tell me a bit about what you did around the house, what chores and stuff you did growing up.
That's Cliff.
Cliff, sorry.
It was just like all farm ranch kids. You had, you were kids when you could be, but you had chores to do and go out and help, the parents do whatever it is they were doing.
So tell me what that was.
Well, you'd have cows with baby calves on them, nurse cows. You had to milk cows, like Dad was saying. I didn't have to milk cows to the level he did, but I sure knew how to milk a cow and did. And so you had a lot of baby calves that you'd raise on those nurse cows that maybe they had been lost from cows on the ranch or something you'd buy to raise and so forth. Had chickens, you took care of the chickens and so forth.
How about you, Matt?
Me just help out around the ranch, help do chores that are at the barn, feed cows, feed horses.
When did you guys start driving a truck? It seems everybody starts driving a truck at like 4.
Yeah, that's just about right. Right in that area someplace. I'd always help Dad feed cows. And he'd take I'd drive the pickup and he'd feed off the back. And so we felt like we were doing a lot. I think the pickup probably could have done its own thing just as easy, but we felt like we was doing something.
And now, what did you do for fun?
In those days, dancing's always been a big deal in this community. Not so much anymore, but back in those days, you'd have dances during the summer, more than at Christmas, New Year's, but there'd be summer dances as well. And you know, once in a while you go to town and do something when you got a little older, but see a movie or something like that perhaps. But that's, you know, that's about what we did.
How many people were at these dances? Were they big?
Well, yeah, in those days, especially at Amistad, that was quite a place to go and have dances. There would be, you know, sometimes hundreds of people there, and it's kind of interesting. We met there. We went up to buy one of these 4-wheel Rangers, and we were up in Liberal, Kansas, and we were making a trade for this guy. Said, "Where are you from?" And we told him, said, "Oh, some of the best New Year's dances ever. We're in Amistad, New Mexico. I know all about it, and I've been there." And so, you know, they in the old days, the Amistad dances were quite famous. They really were.
Now, Matt, have you ever been to one of those Amistad dances?
Yes, ma'am, my whole
You have?
life.
Okay, so they still have them, and they're still popular?
We still have some dances. I mean, they're not as good as the old days because you can't have the live bands as much because what we do up here anymore is trying to, you know, raise money for the community and upkeep on the buildings and stuff. And so bands have gotten expensive just like anything else. And so since it's kind of for a fundraiser, they've kind of had to go, and you'll have, you know, a disc jockey or something like that. But the fun level is still there. It's not quite as neat as when you had a full-blown band, but it's still a lot of fun.
What other
not as many people come anymore because you know, life has changed. There's satellite TV and all kinds of things for people to do, and so it's not quite as important, unfortunately, for people to have that social connection as it once was.
And so then do you dance as much as they would dance? Because not everybody, it seems like newer generations dance less and less. Do you like to dance, Matt?
I like to dance, yes.
You do?
Just, there's not as many of them to go to as like what they had, but, you know, I still like to go.
So would you guys travel far to go to different dances in other places?
Not much.
Not much.
Right here.
Everybody came to you.
That's right. That's exactly right.
Well, I'll have to come to one of these dances. So, what school did you go to?
I went to Amistad as well.
Okay, and where did you go to school?
I went to Amistad through 6th grade, then I went to Logan High School.
Okay, and how about you? Did you go through high school?
All the way, you know, K through 12. Well, we didn't have K in those days,
Well,
first through 12.
But you didn't have to go to Clayton?
I did not. We sure did
Okay.
have a full school here.
So what was the school like for you, Amistad?
Well, it was neat. I mean, you know, that's it was nice to have a school this close to home. You didn't have to travel 40, 50 miles a day just to get there. And it was, I mean, it's a community. The school makes the community. And so it was neat. And we had a lot of fun. The community had a lot of fun together doing whatever you were doing. You know, whether it's basketball games, volleyball games, track. It doesn't matter what you were doing, it takes everyone to make that happen. And so if you're having ball games, well, the parents were having to work the concession stands and all of that kind of stuff to make it all come together. So very much a community project, and that was what was neat about it.
And how many people were in your graduating class?
11.
11. Okay. So, and then when you were in Amistad, what was it like?
Oh, it was good. It was small. It was really winding down. I mean, wasn't many kids going at all, and they're trying to keep the doors open on it, and you know, eventually it just shut down to about, you know, that 6th grade deal. But it was nice. I mean, it was still very active, and who all was still in it was very active.
Were you in basketball or anything like that?
Yes, I played sports.
Okay, so could you tell me a little about it? Did you get to travel and play other schools and
Oh, we
stuff
did.
like that?
We traveled and played other schools, and they had Pee-wee basketball tournaments.
Yeah,
and we went to those. And
it sounds like there's been some good coaches around here. So do you remember any of your coaches particularly?
one that I can remember. It's just most of the guys in the community, really. I mean, Dad, he helped a little bit. Ralph Stevenson, Mr. Kimber helped some. Just Lynn Clay helped some. Just kind of like everybody
Was
pitched
involved
in when they needed to pitch in.
So the school was really important. Were there any other things that really brought the community together?
You know, back then you had your 4-H as well. That was still a big deal in our area. And, you know, some of the kids were involved in junior rodeo as well.
Okay.
But 4-H was a big deal for us.
So do you have any good stories traveling to Kansas and a rail car or
Well, not as
anything?
good as his, that's for sure. It's kind of hard to trump those kind of stories, you know. Ours went off without a hitch, and so it wasn't too hard to do back in those days. But you know, we got to travel because of 4-H to places like Chicago
Yeah.
again, and go to, you know, and do a lot of neat things. Show cattle on a national level,
Yeah.
local, state, and national level, and so it was very important in the mentorship of where we are today.
Hmm. How about you? Were you involved in 4-H?
Yes, 4-H and FFA both.
And what did you do? Where did you get to travel to? And
Oh, and 4-H just, you know, locally for state, stuff like that. I think we won, I remember for his horse or livestock, but we got to go to Denver for 4-H and judge there. And then on the FFA level, we were highly competitive in FFA. We got to go to the nationals in livestock and dairy both. And we reserved national champs in dairy and third
Wow.
runner-up in livestock.
when
So
was that?
that'd been 2000 and 2001.
That's great. Okay, so Cliff, once you graduated from high school, what did you do after that?
After that, I went to Las Cruces, New Mexico, to New Mexico State University,
Okay.
and went 4 years, got a BS in animal science.
Mhm.
And after that, I left, and I had a job opportunity there was 2 job opportunities. One of them was in Arizona at the 26 Bar Ranch, and that was John Wayne's ranch.
Oh,
And so
wow.
I probably would have worked there for free. And I got a chance to meet him and so forth. And so I went there and spent almost 2 years there.
Oh.
And I did get to meet the Duke. And
So tell us the
all that
story
good
about
stuff.
the Duke.
Well, you know, actually, his health wasn't all that good at the time I was
Uh-huh.
there. And so he didn't come to the ranch very much. And he's always still busy, even at the end, you know, making films and stuff. And so he had just finished The Shootist, which was his last film, just kind of during that time. And so he wasn't healthy. And so I wish I could have got to know him when he felt a little bit better, but he is still a great guy. And I remember the first time I saw him, they had a social, it was a registered Hereford operation. People from all over the United States came. And high rollers as well as, you know, the common guys. And so they all wanted to buy 26 bar cattle. And a lot of them wanted to come just to meet the Duke, because that was an opportunity for
Sure.
the general public, you know, to have their chance at him. And so he came, and so the first time I saw him was then, at that first party. And so I saw him across the room, and I said, wow, this guy's not such a big guy, you know.
Yeah.
He doesn't look so big to me. And so the owner of the ranch, pretty quick motioned to him, and he wanted to introduce me. And so he started walking up, and the closer he got, the bigger he got, the closer he got, the bigger he got, you know. And so when I shook his hand, I couldn't hardly shake his hand. So he was a big enough guy, all right. So, and that was, you know, really a neat time.
Yeah.
An opportunity. And so he was around a little bit after that. But his health issues, unfortunately, the ranch where I was, the division I was at 7,000 feet. And so since he only had one lung left and was
Yeah.
having trouble with it, he just couldn't come and participate like he had done,
Sure.
you know, a few years earlier. But anyway, it was great. I enjoyed it, and he I think was a great guy.
Uh-huh.
He didn't act, that's just the way he was.
Yeah. So when did you come back to here?
Well, after that, I had an opportunity to move to Watrous, New Mexico, another registered Hereford operation. And the people's name was Doolittle, and so they called it the Doolittle Hereford Ranch. It had previously been owned by the Selman brothers in New Mexico, too. And so anyway, long story short, I was offered a management position there and spent 5 years. And after that, then I moved home and
Okay.
joined the family operation. My wife and I did.
Okay. Nice. All right. And then how many children do you have? Just two.
Just the one.
Okay. All right. So let's see. Where are we now? It's a whirlwind. There's another story you're supposed to tell.
He needs to tell about his being president of the National Hereford Association.
You need to tell about being president of.
Yeah, well, I mean, I can. I was going to let you lead the questions in.
Well, I
if you
was,
wanted,
but she's in charge. Go ahead.
Anyway, well, yeah, I mean, the Hereford cattle they've pretty well made our living. I mean, everything we have, we can attribute to that
them.
breed of cattle. And so, you know, they've kept us alive and kept the family together, and given us opportunities to, you know, Matt judges shows at a national level. I judged a few back in the day.
Okay.
But most recently, the thing that I did is the national organization is called the American Hereford Association, and I was elected to its board of directors, and ultimately was the national president. So that's kind of a a neat thing that for me.
Neat. So many people kind of switched their cattle around here. So why did you guys make the decision to keep the Hereford cattle?
Well, Dad's a lot of it. I mean, even back when my granddad was still alive, there was a time when he said, well, maybe we should change to something else. Dad said, no, these Hereford cattle are good. There's nothing wrong with them. We like them, and they're doing us a good job, and we're not going to change. And we've pretty much stayed with that same philosophy. And now, after quite a few years, all of a sudden Herefords have been rediscovered, and they're a neat thing again. And it's interesting that some the young managers coming out of college now are thinking that the Hereford Angus cross, all of a sudden, well, that is sure a cool cross, which we all know that was from way long time ago. Point being, though, it's just been rediscovered that the Hereford and Angus are an excellent cross and make tremendously good animals, both at the ranch level and at the table as well.
Do you think that they're more drought tolerant, or are they better adapted to this environment? Because they're what was here before, what everybody had when you talked to them.
The Herefords won the West.
Yeah.
It wasn't any other
Right.
breed. I mean, you had the Longhorns, you had the Shorthorns, the Herefords, the Angus to some degree, but the Angus, when times were really tough, at least in my opinion, were never that animal that could survive. I mean, it owned just nothing. And so the Hereford cattle is what helped win the West, and the other breeds have come along since then.
Yeah.
But so to answer your question, I think they have a toughness to them that maybe some others don't.
Okay. So we have 3 generations in the room. So could you guys tell me how ranching has changed from your parents' lifetime to your lifetime to going down this whole? What are the things that you noticed?
Well, I guess the big changes are we ranch out of pickups a whole lot now, and we didn't used to do that. And then the way our breeding programs are so much different. They use lots of AI, ET work, and stuff like that was almost unheard of back when I was in high school. We tried it a little bit, my dad did at one point in time, but it takes a little more help and a little more intensity, and we didn't stay at that very long. And then the boys came along, and they do it a lot.
That's I think that's a lot of, I mean, actually that's part of what, when we leave here, we're going to go take care of some of those things he's talking about right now. We have AI cows to check, and some recip cows are going to be working on tomorrow to receive eggs a little bit later in June. And so technology is probably, is probably impacted agriculture as much as anything. I mean, we have cell phones in our pockets.
Yeah.
We can, access information from the American Hereford Association database. If we want to look this old cow, well, there she is right here.
So do you look up stuff on the internet?
No, I'm not an internet person.
Okay. So what are the things you use your smartphones for? You just mentioned one thing.
Oh, just pull stuff up on the internet, or like if you're in a marketing situation and you think, well, you got we have 2 production sales a year. We have a show heifer sale in Oklahoma with Langford Herefords, and then we have our annual bull sale every spring, and then we also have a club calf division. We have 2 sales in the fall with that as well. So for me, it's pretty handy, if you're looking at this calf and he's tied up, or the bull is loose out in the pastures, that, hey, I think that guy might like that one. Well, you just take a picture of it and send it to him. Or you can snap a quick video. If somebody says, hey, I'm interested in this calf, can you send me a quick video? Well, you can do that with your cell phone as well. And it makes marketing very, very simple and easy, and you can get a lot more done than just sitting over the phone trying to tell somebody that you have something that they're interested in. You can just send it, and they can either say yes or no.
That's kind of like with mail and stuff too. This is such a fast-paced world anymore that you can mail a photo or something, but it's just like you say, it's just instantaneous.
Right.
And especially the younger generation, they're used to
instantaneous
stuff.
Yeah. So Clifford, were you used to marketing?
No, not to what
To
they
the same
call
extent
marketing.
they do. So now, are there things that your father did or your grandfather would have done that you still do on this ranch. So you talked about all the new things you guys are doing with the technology, but are there some things you still do the old fashioned way or the old school way?
Go ahead.
Well, you know, there are several. I mean, we still have to get out and check the cattle. They have to be fed and taken care of, and those kind of things never change. It never goes out of style. It has to be done. Animals always come first before the needs of the people, and so we take care of them day or night, whatever. And so those things are always the same. And one thing we do that not with our registered calves, but the commercial calves, it's becoming in this area. It's not uncommon. But in the United States, you know, in the country we know of, it's becoming uncommon. We still rope and drag our calves to the fire for branding, and that's something we like to hang on to. It's a social event. It gets a lot of work done. The neighbors come in. Everyone has a good time. No one's overworked. You get to visit a little bit, find out what's going on with the neighbors and the community, and that's another way to kind of keep the community together. And it's getting harder to do because people, a friend of mine at a branding that I was at this morning, I was helping a neighbor just before I came here. It's one reason we set this later. And we were talking about, you know, when we were kids, it just wasn't this busy. We're all so busy trying to make a living that we couldn't quite put our finger on why, other than the fact that people are having to do more things than we used to do just to keep going. And that's a good and bad thing, I guess. But you just don't get the chance to just visit and you know, socialize as much. Everyone finishes up these brandings, and they got another project to go take care of.
So the brandings, are you still, everyone's helping each other? You're not paying for labor?
You have to pay some, or we do. I mean, you have your choice. You can stay gone a lot of the time and not have to pay any help, or your core neighbors, and that's what I call them, that we've always neighbored with since we came to this country. We come and help each other. You don't pay them, of course, but some of us are getting a little older too, and we need some younger help. And so you have to bring in some of the young help to flank the calves and take care of some of that. And so yeah, we hire a few, but not many.
So does the younger help expect to be paid versus exchange?
Well, yeah, I mean, if that's how they make a living too. I mean, that's part of the reason they can stay here and do what they're doing, because that's how they can do it. So, and so we want them to stay in the community. So it's it helps everyone.
So you talked a little bit about being neighborly and your neighbors. So what are the things that makes this community special?
We've talked about a lot of it. You know, I mean, the school was good when it was there. The community was always together. But this area, people will just, if something's wrong, they'll help you. It doesn't matter. They'll drop it all. They'll come do whatever it takes, and don't ask for anything. And I think that's pretty special.
Clifford, what do you think?
I think that I sure do, because I don't know how many people have called, stopped by since I've been sick, and whatever, holler if you need me. I'll be here.
That's nice. What about you, Mac? 'Cause you're the younger
I
generation.
think a lot of what makes this community special is the generations that help teach our young kids. The old ways and the new, and they can decide how they want to do it. But I think it's everybody, you know, the men and the women, but just teaching them right and wrong and teaching them how to do it and helping them along the way. And it's the kids, when kids get brought up in this community, it's not just, well, that's my kid and that's your kid. It's everybody's kids, basically. So you kind of got to pay attention when somebody yells at you. It doesn't matter what side it's coming
from. They're going to hear about it later. So with your things, so you said you kind of learned from the older generation, but you also could introduce the technologies and stuff. So are there things you feel the younger generation has to add?
Oh, the sky's the limit what they have to add. I mean, it's just, they're smarter, they learn stuff quicker, they're so much ahead of even what I was, Dad was, Clifford was. I mean, they can do stuff now that I could, they're still in grade school and I couldn't do in high school. I mean, they're so smart and they're so fast learning, and they're just going to teach us a lot quick. and faster than we could do it.
Now, when did you graduate from high school?
2001.
And that was from Clayton?
That's from Logan.
From Logan, okay.
Yes,
and
ma'am.
so then what did you do after that?
I went to Dodge City Community College and judged on the livestock team for 2 years, and then I finished up at Oklahoma State with a BS in animal science.
Okay, so tell me about Oklahoma State University, because I see you're a champion. So tell me a little bit about it.
Oh, just went to Oklahoma State. Just went there because I thought it was a good school. Always wanted to go there, and had a good time, and it was a really good experience.
And what did you do while you were there?
Just went to school, and then mostly just traded show steers and show heifers to pay for school.
And did you win anything?
I didn't do anything at Oklahoma State.
High school.
Oh, that was in high school. She
On high school, if I was on the judging team, like we said earlier, I was on the state champion dairy judging team, and then we were also reserve.
And you guys won.
Yes, and then I was on the livestock judging team, and I was high individual there.
So what are the things that people that come from the ranches bring to sort of someplace like Oklahoma State? Because I love the kids that come from the rural places. They're my favorite ones to teach. So what is that? There's something there that you have that makes you very successful when you go away.
Oh, it's just I think the school helps the kids because they want to. They all want to learn and they all want to be progressive. Everybody that's young wants to be progressive, and everybody that goes to college wants to be progressive and be better. And so I think with the kids that come out here, they're going there to see something new, learn about different ways other people do it, and it could be the way that we want to bring it out here, and it can only work over there. I mean, you'll learn lots of different things, and I thought that Oklahoma State was definitely the best place to do that and to teach you, how to be a better manager, how to be a better cow man, just all those kind of deals. Or in the meat science department, I took some meat classes just to learn more about that because their meats program was so good and still is.
And you knew you wanted to come back?
Yes.
Okay. So, are there things that you think you learned from growing up in the dirty 30s or from the drought of the 50s that you guys, or there lessons you learned from your father that have helped you in this last drought? Because the last drought was a really bad drought. So is there something any lessons you've learned from other droughts that help you through current droughts?
Well, I think we probably learned from every one. It's hard to pinpoint because the situation's not the same. Like in the drought of the 50s, we fed lots of silage. And in this last drought, we fed lots of hay. Silage was not something that was going over big. The feedlots took all the silage. So we had to learn to go from one to the other. And you got to shop for this hay. It's something else that you got to buy. And things like that, I think, is what we learn out of each one.
How about you, Cliff?
Yeah, I mean, when this thing first started, my dad was able to just tell us what we were kind of in for. This last drought we're just recovering from. I can remember it just a little bit, but I was just a little kid, so management decisions like he's talking about meant nothing to me at that time. All I knew it was hot and dry, and there were lots of rattlesnakes around. But, basically, we could survive it if we had to, and just do whatever it would take to keep the base genetics of our herd together, because it may not be the best cow herd in the country, but it's ours. We've worked on it for 4 to 5 generations now, and we just wanted to be able to preserve that genetics so that when we came out of the drought, we could continue on with all the work that's been put into these cattle previously. And we were prepared if the drought had just endured and there was absolutely no way to maintain a cow herd. And there's options of sending them off to different states where it's not droughty. You can bring in lots of feed and stuff, but economics, you just have to put the pencil to it, make management decisions. But the ultimate decision was, because of modern technology, we had lots of embryos in storage from donor cows that we have produced here, that if we just had to sell everything, when it turned around, we have all these eggs we could start over with.
You still have the genetic
And we
stock.
still have the genetics. And so that's one thing that, like back in the 30s, that option wasn't available.
Right.
Those guys, when they had to sell out, it was just, they were gone.
Mhm.
They had to start completely over. So that's one thing that we have, it's a plus to our way of going now that we didn't have in the old
But
days.
I think some ranchers did sell their cattle and didn't have those. So is that sort of you guys both have education background in this, so is that something you brought to the table that was maybe unique for around here?
Well, maybe a little bit, but I mean, most people don't have registered operations. And so registered guys do this kind of stuff on a
Right.
more regular basis than the
Because that's how
commercial
you
cattlemen.
really earn your living.
And so, I mean, it was just more, it was a natural for us to think like that, and most guys, most of the commercial guys just don't do that. So, it's not that we're smarter or more educated or anything like that, it's just the way our operation is geared led us to that conclusion.
So talking about we were talking about the drought, have you guys noticed any changes kind of growing up in the sort of the landscape around here? So is it wetter or drier or less, swimming holes that used to have water that don't, or more animals or less animals, or any kinds of observations you have?
Well, the number of cattle that you can run on a section of ground hasn't changed that much, good or bad. And there's a few other things. One thing I wanted to mention about the drought and management decisions. I don't think we brought it up, but we think like people start selling their cows or don't sell their cows. Some people don't, and they'll mortgage their ranch to buy feed. We feel like that's a mistake. The cows do the cows. If you keep that land where you got something to start over with.
Sure. So less risk aversion. How about you, Cliff? Have you noticed any differences?
I think that, from the 50s up till now, we're talking about the turf of the land and all. Dad says in the 40s that, our ranch was as far as ecosystems of the grass and all was probably as healthy as it's ever been, at least in the past 100 years.
Yeah.
And he said, after the drought of the 50s, the ranch has never fully recovered. I mean, even though we've had good years prior to the drought we just finished, it just never reached its full potential of when he was young growing up, and we have never seen that again. And so and coming out of this drought, there's been damage to the land. There's bare spots in the ground that's going to have to repair itself, and how fast that can happen, we don't know. That we'll have to have lots of rain over a period of years to fully achieve that. And so with that goes invasive weeds that we haven't had before. We're seeing some of that, and you don't know what they are, or are they
Do you
good
have
or
like
bad,
loco or?
Loco's here, but I think it was here,
Before.
I think Noah must have taken some of those seeds on the ark. It's always been here.
Yeah.
I think that's another a subject that came up this morning. Guys were talking about the loco weed and how you just never get rid of it. It runs in cycles. It'll come in. It really likes to grow in the old fields, the homestead fields, and that you never know where it's going to show up. You just know it will.
Okay. What about you, Matt? Or have you noticed any differences in your lifetime?
The demeanor of people. I mean,
How so?
when I was little, everybody, they were pretty laughing, and everybody still is, because that's the way everybody is out here. I mean, you don't ever show all your cards, and you still try to be good, but in just the last year when it started getting a little better, everybody's demeanor got a lot better, because they're not just struggling, wondering, well, how are we going to get out of this? And so I guess for me, a lot is just the demeanor of people from when I was little till this drought started, until we were getting a little bit better times again.
So they're more optimistic?
Yes, and just more outgoing, and they don't look so depressed or worried or have so much anxiety look on their face. I mean, they don't have to tell you. You can just look at them and know.
Sure. Okay, so we have a few more minutes left, but I wanted to know, what do you guys think the future of ranching looks like in this country? Around here. What do you think?
I think it's going to be considerably different than the way I know it.
Okay, so he passed that off to you guys.
I think technology is going to continue to evolve. I think in 10 years we're going to be doing things that we're not even aware of at this point. That's out. So, and it's probably going to help out. We're going to need it. There's a lot of people in the world to feed, and so we're going to need every bit of technology we can squeeze out of it to make that happen. And of course there are people out there who don't think ranching should continue either. But I think that demand to feed the people is going to outweigh any resistance at that. But I do think that we have to be more cognizant of the way we. One misconception is ranchers treat all their animals well. That's why you do it. You like animals, or you wouldn't obviously be doing this. And so they're treated well. But I think we have to do a better job of getting that story out. That hey, we're not the bad guys, we're the good guys. And so I think we're going to have to do a lot better job in the future of showing the general public of what we do. The problem is, for up until the last 20 or 30 years, everyone had a cousin or an uncle or a grandpa or something involved in agriculture. At this point in time, statistics show there's a lot of people who's totally removed from agriculture. There is no tie.
That you get your food from the grocery store.
That's right. And we're going to have to do a good job of educating them, to show them that we're doing a good job raising wholesome products, and we like the animals, we're good to them, and we're good for the environment, we're good to the environment, we live here too.
Sure.
And so I think that's going to be some of the changes we see in ranching in the future.
Matt, do you have anything to add to that?
Oh, I agree with him 100%. I mean, I think that supply and demand, and we've got the doors wide open for us to supply not only us but the world product and good product, and we need to do that. And I think the more that people realize, like he said, that we do take good care of our animals, we do try to put a wholesome, good product out there, I think it'll get better and better, and the world keeps growing, and so they're going to keep needing something to eat. And I think the opportunity for young ranchers, is the sky's the limit. It's all about seeing the future, though. I mean, you got to be, you're always wanting to be one step ahead of the game, or seeing where the game's wanting to go. And I think to be a young progressive rancher, you need to be looking outside the box. How am I going to make this better to make it in a good year or a bad year? What's my niche in this little industry game to make it work? And I think when everybody gets that little deal figured out, no matter what it is, I think the sky's the limit on what they can do, young people can.
Okay. So we have about 2 more minutes, and my last question is, what advice do you have for the next generation of ranchers? You kind of gave some advice in there, but would there be any advice you would add to the next generation of ranchers?
Well, main thing I would say is they need to really keep their nose to the grindstone, because it's something that don't just come to you. You got to work for it.
Anything else you guys would add?
I don't think I have anything that's
I'd say
sage
just
advice.
work hard for it, and don't overextend yourself, because this is a big business and it's a big game, and it takes big players. But make sure that you can play in the game that you're wanting to play, and if that's not that game, then back off just a little bit. Always just keep money right and keep that ahead, and you'll be doing good.
That's really good advice. Well, I really thank you for your time. I've enjoyed talking to you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.